How is it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Blender tutorial that is free. Today we're going to be making antennas for police cars to be used in GTA 5. So this will be a really short, just Blender tutorial, but it will actually show you how to make something. I'm not going to go the full process of texturing all that stuff in ZModeler. You can also texture in Blender. Again, we're just going to be focusing on the actual 3D model today. If you guys want a separate video on how to, do the full process, export it out, texture it, throw it in game, I have that on my Patreon, but I'm willing to do it for free as well. Just let me know if this video gets good views. I got no problem doing it. Make sure to like the video, and let's get right into it. So we are obviously in Blender. The first things first, I would obviously recommend importing your car into ZModeler. So the way you would do that is you would go into ZModeler and then export the file as an object file or an OBJ file, and then you would import that file into Blender. So I have exported my vehicle as an OBJ. So all I'm going to do is go to File and then Import and then Wavefront OBJ right here. And I'm going to search for my vehicle, which is in my downloads. So I just scroll down until I find it. I think it should be right here. Poop.obj. Yes. So here's our vehicle. It's a Mustang from one of my old packs. This one already has antennas on it. Doesn't really matter for the video. First things first, we need to delete this. So we don't need that anymore. So we have our vehicle here. And again, I went over the controls in the prior video. So watch that. That kind of covers how to move around and do the modes and kind of screw with things in Blender. But for example, like this antenna right here, I modeled a long time ago. This one right here. So it's very easy. I also recommend mounting antennas in Blender because you can really see where it's mounting at. Versus in ZModeler, it's kind of hard. But all we're going to be doing is just sticking an antenna adjacent to these ones right here. And just going to be a simple, very, very simple antenna for the sake of this video. You guys can do whatever the hell you want, but we're going to make a simple antenna. So first things first, I like to start with a circle. So we're going to do Shift A, Mesh, and then click on Circle. And then we're going to lock our view using Alt in the middle scroll wheel and dragging. And we're just going to change our angles. I'm just going to scale it down to basically the size of these. Again, you probably don't have antennas on your car, obviously. But again, just, get a good circle size going. You guys know what a size of an antenna is. I don't think I need to hold your hand there. But once we got it there, I'm actually just going to hide the car because we don't want that interfering with the, process of making this. And now that the world is your oyster, I'm going to show you my antenna I'm going to make. Again, I'm just making something random. But the first thing I'm going to do is press E and then Z and extrude this up like so. Kind of like that. And then I'm going to press E and Z again to get a second group of polys. So then I can go ahead and press S and scale this in, kind of like a base of an antenna. Or I mean, not kind of, this is a base of an antenna. So you kind of see I got a good scale on that. Might scale it a bit more so it's more narrow. And then all I'm going to do is press E and then Z. And now we can take it vertically. This might be a bit chunky. Very chunky. So let's press Alt and then Shift, and we can select this group of polys. And if we just look down at the top, we could scale it down a bit more so it's, a lot thinner and not so chunky. Still way too chunky, so I'm gonna keep scaling it. All right, I think that looks good. Base is a little bit big, but we can also fix that too. If you want to scale it on the base, all you gotta do is press Alt and click, and then hold Shift and then Alt and click. Now we'll select both groups of polys. Now we gotta do is just scale that down ourselves. And I like to move it up and down so I get that, nice little concave look on the shaft. But now we can actually flare out this base. So you don't have to. You could just press F and fill this in and it'd just be a flat base. But you can kind of see I like to flare out my bases. So what I'll do is I will press E and then kind of flare it out like that. And then go from a different angle and then press Z and flare it down like that. And there you go. You kind of got like a smooth transition right there. Now, when we go to do normals on this, it's going to kind of need to be beveled on some of this because this will be very sharp looking and it won't look the best. You can kind of see on this one how there is like a bevel to it and it makes it look a lot better. But let's keep going. So we go ahead and press Alt and select our vertipolys right here. And what we can do is continue just going up. Just press G. G is to move. We're not extruding it again. We already extruded it. We can just drag this way up. And I'm gonna add a little top to it. kind of like that. And then kind of press E again. And I'm just going to kind of scale this like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press F, and then I'm going to press Control E, and then bevel. And as you can see, we can kind of bevel that to kind of give it like a little antenna look. Again, this is a really crappy antenna, but I'm not going off anything I know. This kind of looks like an RC car antenna, but you know, that's okay. What I am going to do is I'm going to go in this viewport shading mode and select this group of polys right here. And I'm going to press Z, kind of move it up a little bit. And then I'm going to take the whole thing and just move it down so it's a little bit shorter, a little bit stubbier. Kind of like that. So there you go. It's a little simple antenna. Again, you can get crazier. You can see on this one, I kind of like, while I extruded it, I kind of made it wide, moved it up, made it narrow, moved it up, and then just kind of made a little middle thing. I mean, this is basically the exact same antenna, just has a little middle thing on the top, as you can see. You can also add that little triangle if you want. It's not very hard. All you would do is kind of like, you might have to extrude it differently, but again, none of this is really hard. I feel like I'm kind of just beating a dead horse here, but you guys can see just like that. I mean, it's got a simple antenna. Now this one isn't shaded smooth, so it kind of looks a little bit weird compared to these, but yeah, I mean, that is a simple antenna. So if we go ahead and start marking things sharp that we want to be sharp, we can set it all up. So if we go here and go in line mode up here, and then use Alt select again, we can select the ring of polys and mark sharp just by right clicking. Go up here and mark this sharp. I'm going to leave this smooth. I'm actually going to grab this line of polys, and I'm going to press Control E again and bevel this as well, so it's more round like that. So when we shade it smooth, this will just be a smooth little bead on top of the antenna. If we come down here, we obviously need to mark the base of it sharp and as well fill it in. So all we're going to do is press F and then mark it sharp. And then what we can do is now shade this smooth here in a second. So this is your decision. You can either leave this sharp, or you can bevel it and make it kind of like a smooth antenna. So I'll show you the two differences. So what I'll do is I'll mark this sharp first and mark this sharp. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shade smooth. Shade smooth. And then I'm gonna go over here, add modifiers. I'm gonna add a weighted normal, keep sharp. And then we're gonna go into this data, normals, auto smooth, and apply that to 180 degrees. And as you can kind of see, it looks smooth, but it also looks pretty sharp at the same time. As you can see, it's not as smooth as those. So if you want that same kind of look, like up here, how it's like smooth, just watch very simply. So all we're gonna do is select these and this, and I'm just gonna clear the sharp on it. So now you kind of can see it's kind of just like a blur, to be honest with you. We go ahead and press Control E again and bevel these just ever so slightly. Now when you're beveling this, I do want to point out that as you drag, the more it gets, the more it bevels on your mouse. And then you can also use your scroll wheel and scroll down to add more, or scroll down to add less, and scroll up to add a lot more. But the more you add, the more polys it gets, and polygons add data to your car file, which also causes lag. So you don't necessarily want to go crazy because you're like, oh, that looks really smooth, that looks really good. No, that's what auto smooth is for. It takes a kind of smooth object and fully smooths it out, versus you adding a crap ton of polys. No bueno. The only time I can actually put in perspective where you would actually use a crap ton of polys to smooth something out would actually be when you're 3D printing objects, like a 3D printed push bar or anything you want to 3D print on a 3D printer or a resin printer. You want to actually make it smooth physically versus using like a modifier to auto smooth it. Talking from experience here. But let's say we just want to smooth this out. We're going to drop this down to probably just 2, like kind of like that. And then if we right click and shade smooth again, and then just re-tick our auto smooth, you can see how nice and beveled and smooth that looks. And that looks really good. As you can see, looks very nice. Now, like I said, if you wanted to add like a middle piece, like I'm just going to add a quick little cylinder here, and I'm going to show you how to do it, versus, some people are maybe not the most advanced in Blender, and they might tell you to go, Shift A, mesh, and then, add a cylinder and kind of scale it down and put it on there. No, I'm not going to do all that. what we can do instead is press A and select this entire thing, and then press hit Control and then R, and you'll see this line appear across the object. Now you can kind of pull it anywhere you want, down here, up here, but basically what this is doing, this is adding in a loop cut to the mesh. So by adding a loop cut, we're basically inserting, like if we were extruding, we added another ring of polys to mess with. So what we're going to do here is add a loop cut to then scale it out and make a cylinder with it. So if we actually scroll our scroll wheel up, you'll see 2 appear, and vice versa. You keep scrolling, more and more will appear. You scroll down, you get 1. Now all we're going to do is, I'm just going to scroll up and add 2, and all you got to do is click. And as you can see now, when we hit tab and go to our vert mode, you can see we added 2 rings into our thing. So what we can do now is go into our face mode, and you can see it selects all these faces, and we can now go from the top viewpoint and press E and extrude like so. And as you can see, it kind of is concaving a little bit, not a huge deal. All we gotta do is go from the side and just scale this down like so. And I'm going to show you a method to actually get this 100% flat. So if you just go here and alt select these faces and then press S and then Z and then 0. Basically what that does is you're scaling on the Z axis, which is the vertical axis, and then 0 means that it's flat. Very useful. So we do it again. So S, Z, 0. You'll see it flattens out. And that is extremely important for normals. Especially, again, if a surface is not flat and you're telling the software that it is flat, the normals are not going to look right. They're going to look dark, not 100% like the right color, because again, you're telling the game that it's flat when it's not, when you mark things sharp. So like obviously if we wanted to keep it like this, we could just select these 2 rings and mark sharp, and you can see it looks perfect. But again, if you don't have it 100% flat, it's not going to look right. But let's do this a little bit nicer. Let's grab these 2 outer rings and then press S and then Z and kind of scale them in like this, and it looks a lot nicer. Again, this is just a very, very simple antenna. I'm also going to bevel these as well. So again, just Control E and then bevel, and then we need to mark our base right here sharp, so that looks correct. And as you can see, we added a little notch. Now this is a little fat stubby antenna, and you may be thinking like that thing is a chonker, and I agree with you. So what we can do, or I'm going to do, is I'm actually going to go in this view shader mode, and I'm going to select these chunks of polys right here. I'm just going to scale it down so it looks a bit less chunky. As you can see, looks a lot better. A little bit more like that. And then I'm actually going to take this whole middle part and scale it down. So just go from the top viewpoint like this. So you can see I selected everything in the middle. And all I'm going to do is just scale this puppy down, because it's just a chunker. I don't like very chunky antennas. So I'll just keep it like that. And then what I'll do is I'll just take the top piece right here and kind of scale it up like that. Move this in the middle, kind of in the middle. And now you can see we got a better looking antenna. Actually looks like an antenna. We're gonna compare it to our other antennas. We're gonna need to go a little bit taller, so we'll just scale it up, move this back down the middle, and as you can see, that's starting to look like an actual antenna. If you want to, we can actually make this a bit longer. And like I said, none of these videos are scripted, so I'm just kind of going with the flow. And like I said, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to model something on 100% and just be like, yeah, it's done. No, you can see I'm going through the motion. And we have basically recreated this one right here. You can see it is slightly different. So, you know, every model is going to be slightly different. I'd say our base is a bit chunky too. So all we got to do, take the base and kind of just scale it up like that. And I think it's also a little too wide. So I'll just take those and scale it down like so. Take a look at it again. And I think that right there is a decent looking antenna. I don't know if you guys disagree, but I think it works. I think it works. Maybe you want to make this taller. I mean, be my guest. I don't know. I think it looks fine. Again, this isn't based off any antennas, but Once you start making antennas like this, you can make antennas like what I have here, which is like a wire antenna, a metal wire antenna, kind of like whips and curls. Pretty cool. I actually released a new video on how to make spiral wires, which will make this look a lot more uniform. I think I did this manually back when I first started, because I didn't know how to do spirals. Go figure. I think it actually looks better manually, just because, I mean, metal wires aren't going to be 100% spiral or perfect spiral, because, you know, they get damaged in all sorts of ways. But yeah, that is a simple antenna, and all you would do from here is I would set origin to geometry and kind of just mount it on the roof of the car. I mean, you know how to rotate stuff. I hope so. Just rotate it and get everything mounted. Make sure you're checking from all angles like so, and just kind of, you know, get it to the surface like this. Keep rotating it, and check all your viewpoints. As you can see how it's all mounted up there. You see how like the lip is kind of not showing. You kind of can see it underneath the vehicle. That's what you want. You obviously can go a little bit higher to get it like perfect, but you know, that's basically fully mounted to the car, and you can be 100% confident that the antenna is not floating on your vehicle when you use Blender, because you can literally see where it's at. Versus in Z-Modeler, it's a little bit of a guessing game. It truthfully is. You know, you usually kind of just go into the base, kind of clips into the roof, which that's fine. But again, Blender is definitely a better software to be mounting things that are so intricate, especially like antennas on roofs. You know, it's all curved and stuff. It's a lot easier too. But yeah, that is an antenna, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys find these videos very useful, make sure to check out the Patreon in the description. It's $17 a month, and it has about 50 videos on it covering Z-Modeler stuff and Blender stuff. So go check that out. Other than that, hope you guys have a great day, and have a good one. Peace out.